Joe Biden's doing absolutely nothing about Joe Manchin and Sinema, but some folks are, so we brought him on. Let's talk about it, what they're doing, direct action. Kai Newkirk, he's the founder of For All. Stephen Valencia, chair of Arizona Jobs with Justice, and Rylee Haught, lead organizer at Unpack. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So Kai, man, this is perfect for you. You grew up in West Virginia and you live in Arizona now. I feel bad for you. Not a lot of great representation there. So tell us about what this movement was overall.
Yeah, thank you, Cenk. I feel like in some ways it's been a blessing in terms of my calling to try to be of service. You know, to be born and raised in West Virginia and living in Arizona with my wife now, and to have these two senators who are the most important blockade to what we need to do in this country, be from those two states, and to have the chance to try to organize and do something about it. You know, I feel is fortunate. And what we did in the sit-in for the soul of America was try to step up to the reality that we face in our country. We didn't lightly use the hashtag sit-in to save America. We really believe that there are so many existential crises that we're facing as a country that we could do something about to really make a difference right now with the Democratic control of the White House and Congress, if we could get through the blockade of the filibuster and Manchin and Sinema. And so we feel there's too much at stake to just accept that and not to do everything that we can to try to get through it. And so we felt like we had to use the tool of nonviolent direct action to try to challenge them and say, we're not going to take it anymore. And so we did actions in Tucson, Arizona, and Charleston, West Virginia, understanding that we need people across the country to be in this fight if we're going to overcome, but there are senators, so we're leading the charge.
Yeah, and Kai's wife actually used to work for Sinema, so I want to come back to that in a little bit. But Stephen, let me go to you. So you're in the Tucson action, and let me ask you, what are your hopes there? So Biden doesn't do anything against Manchin, nobody's doing anything against Manchin and Sinema. So obviously in Tucson, you're mainly focusing on Sinema. But what are you hoping happens out of this action that could make a difference?
Well, thanks for having me here on the show, and I really appreciate it, and being able to voice some of these the concerns that we have and what we're trying to actually do. Pima County, Tucson, Arizona is in Pima County. It's a rather progressive area, comparing to Maricopa County, for example. And so this is a kind of an area that can actually elect governors. The level of Democratic vote is very high. So it's a very active community. It's a community that is very coalitional, you might say. And we've been working at building coalition for over 32 years. And that's just, the Arizona Job with Justice Coalition, of which I'm a part of. But there's been a lot of other organizations that have given impetus to people's dreams and their needs and everything else. I'm just hoping that, it is true that Senator Sinema, is from Tucson, Arizona. And we wanted to make clear to the nation that we are being disappointed is a really big understatement with our senator. And I got to tell you, one thing is that we try to do is to illustrate the fact that Senator Sinema has an office here in Tucson, Arizona, and I don't think she's ever been there. It's a very small office. They're paying rent there, and there's no staff. The doors are always locked. We actually made a video where we actually put the camera on the door, on the front door, which had a whole bunch of cobwebs. That is the attitude of Sinema to the folks here in Tucson. And she was once a very active person in progressive movement here. That's a fact. But now I believe, and I think it's a growing majority here in the state that her her lack of vote and her votes, in this sense, she is an instrument of oppression. It's an oppression. It's a racist positions that she's taken, white supremacy, and I'm a trade unionist, and for somebody like that to thumb their nose at labor, to me is an insult. And so there's a lot of things that we need, and we're trying to inspire larger groups in the country, more states, more cities, to take a position on this obstruction called the filibuster.
Yeah, so we're gonna get back to what a liar Sinema is in a minute, because I am very curious about Kai's wife's experience with her earlier in her career. But Rylee, let me go to you. So Sinema at least is polling badly among Arizona Democrats. The message has reached those good folks, despite corporate media's best efforts. But in West Virginia, we're told, oh no, you can't touch Manchin. There's nothing you can do about Manchin. Manchin's super popular, and it's just totally hopeless. Now, is that your experience? What's your sense of it, and how can you fight back?
I absolutely don't agree with that sentiment. I'm not sure what the current poll numbers are, but I've talked to thousands of West Virginians across the state. As part of Unpack, we ran the largest canvassing operation in West Virginia history last year to tell Manchin that he needs to pass the Freedom to Vote Act and to end the filibuster in order to do that. And so many people that I talk to are absolutely fed up with Manchin, calling West Virginians, saying that we'd use the child tax credit for drugs, just the ways that he's disrespected us, disrespected coal workers by sitting as the chair of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee while making $500,000 a year at the Granttown coal plant is absolutely ridiculous. And I think a lot of West Virginians are waking up to that point, and remembering their roots, as West Virginia was home to the largest labor uprising in United States history at the Battle of Blair Mountain. And our UMWA is doing such important organizing work here and standing up against Manchin. There are tons of us. And yeah, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be on here and share that message, because it's not what the national media says about.
All right, so Kai, let me go back to you. So tell me about your wife's experience, because there was a time when Kristen Sinema pretended to be a progressive, and how was those days, and how is she now?
Well, that was before we met. So I can't speak to it directly, but having talked about it with her, she actually gave a really powerful speech outside of Sinema's office there in Tucson, which again, as Stephen said, to our knowledge, has never been open to the public, never even been staffed. So people should look that up on Twitter, Erika Andiola. But she, like Stephen said, she was a progressive activist back in the day. And when my wife Erika worked for her, she had changed a lot by that time from her experience in the state legislature and become focused on this kind of bipartisan coalition building, but still showed some more accountability to the communities that elected her. And she just continued to go more and more extremely in this other direction, to the point where I don't know if I could find anyone in Arizona who was with her and helped to elect her and helped to get her started, who would say publicly at this point that they still support her. I think she's betrayed the folks that really fought with her and stood with her in the past. And you look at what she's doing now, it appears that it's really just her corporate donors that she's putting first, rather than the people, rather than our democracy, rather than our planet. Or if anything, a very narrow and, in my view, frankly, delusional view of her political future, that somehow things are going to work out for her going down this path. I think the chances that she could be reelected in a Democratic primary in our state are very, very low at this point.
Stephen, you feel like you were lied to?
Lied to?
Yeah.
I feel like I was betrayed. I feel that, we worked a lot. Here in Arizona, it's hot. I don't know if you know that or not.
I do.
But it is very hot here. And when people go out in the blazing heat, door to door to talk to people, you're asking people to do a lot and to sacrifice a lot. And that's what we did here. People in droves believed in her. All of us wanted to have a Senate that would function for the benefit of working people. And we thought that Kristen Sinema was that person. So yes, I do feel like I was lied to and betrayed.
So what's the scenario in which these protests work? If 1,000 people show up, 10,000 people show up, what would it take for the corporate media to cover it and to show that there is resistance against Manchin and Sinema?
Well, I think that's a crucial question. I want to say real quick, because Rylee couldn't come back, that Manchin, he has a lot more support from Republicans, and West Virginia is a different state that Trump won with this huge margin, but he still is a Democrat. He still needs the support of Democrats in the Democratic Party, and that is becoming more and more threatened as people have the courage to stand up against him like what we did. But I think the question you came back to is the one that we've been wrestling with. Because so many people, it sounds like they've given up. Manchin and Sinema, they voted against the filibuster reform. Build Back Better's been stopped. Biden's not putting enough pressure on them. Schumer, what is he doing, right? But really, in our view, it comes down to us, to the people. What are we going to do? Are we going to accept that if they're working so hard to elect this Democratic trifecta, when so much is at stake for our climate, this is our chance to do climate action. On gun violence, just the day after our action, the terrible massacre in Uvalde, and everybody's saying, we've got to do something about the filibuster. What are we going to do to force them to do something about it? The whole Democratic Party coalition has to understand that the people that they depend on are not going to accept them not getting something done. And so we said, we've got to lead by example, even if it's small groups coming out in Tucson and Charleston relatively. To start, we have to show we're not giving up. We're going to escalate the fight. We're willing to disrupt business as usual, shutting down these important intersections in both cities and the downtown in the middle of the day. We're willing to make the sacrifice, willing to risk arrest or be arrested to go to jail for justice, and to call on others to say that if the millions of us across the country who really feel a deep sense of frustration, anger, dismay to see that we're being blocked by these two people, and the rest of the party that won't push them to get them in line to do something about these things that our future, our lives depend on. If the millions of us are willing to stand up and really fight and use our power nonviolently, that anything is possible. And so we had to lead by example, but we need to see people across the country be willing to do what we did. And we believe we need to think about mass non-cooperation, about even things like general strikes. If that's what it's going to take, whatever it's going to take, we have to use our people power to get it done. And sit in for the soulofamerica.org. People can go there now after what we did in Tucson and Charleston. We're going to keep fighting. They can sign up to help organize nonviolent action in their states around the country, as well as in Arizona and West Virginia. And we're not going to give up fighting until when the election comes, right? But we have to fight up until that point and do everything within our power. And I don't accept that we failed until we see the millions of people who are so deeply frustrated and angry about where we stand actually do something that matches what's at stake.
Yeah, first of all, no, we haven't failed. Joe Biden has failed. He hasn't even tried. But I like the idea of filibustering the streets. You guys want to do obstruction in Congress? Maybe we could do obstruction elsewhere so that you can feel our pain. But Rylee, now that you're back, real quick, last question. So what can Biden do about Joe Manchin? Because I hear from corporate media and Democratic hacks that, oh no, there's nothing that could be done about Manchin. Biden must surrender to Manchin. Is that your point of view, or do you think he's got some options?
Absolutely not. He has options. I went on a hunger strike for 23 days for the Freedom to Vote Act, and we took it to the White House because we spoke with Senator Sinema. We were the first group of people to speak with her in over a year, constituency-wise, and nothing really happened. So she mentioned, there hasn't been that much of a push for a rules change from Biden. Didn't say it exactly like that, but that was the vibe. So we took it to the White House and we demanded that Biden do more to pressure Manchin and Sinema. He's got the bully pulpit there. He's not completely powerless. So I want people to recognize that we can't just say, oh, this is Manchin and Sinema. This has been a pretty long time stance of Manchin's against the filibuster. And so I'm not really surprised, although I'm continuing to be disappointed. And there is absolutely more that Biden should be doing and can do to pressure Manchin and Sinema to do the right thing, actually pass legislation that will save America.
Yeah, so there's a million things he could do, and I don't think that he should necessarily start with this, but I did come up with an interesting idea as you were talking there, Rylee. imagine if Biden went on a hunger strike until Manchin and Sinema voted against the filibuster. Like, that would be the most spectacular story in a long, long time. But Biden wouldn't go on a hunger strike for 23 minutes to get this done because he doesn't care. He agrees with Joe Manchin. That's my opinion. But I love that you guys are fighting in the streets and building people power. So Rylee Haught, a lead organizer at Unpack, please check them out. Stephen Valencia, chair at Arizona Jobs with Justice, check them out. And Kai Newkirk, founder of the group For All. You guys are amazing, and we'll have all the links down below, including how to join their sit-ins, okay, in the description box on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you all for joining us, we appreciate it. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.